there. Welcome to Culture by Culture, a multidimensional exploration of Black and Asian pop cultural ties. I'm your friendly host, Delia, and today I'm joined by the CEO of Black Nerds Create. She's also 1/3 of the fantasy podcast Wizard Team, a writer, and my homie, Bayana David. Yay! Hi. How's it going?
Good. I'm excited.
Thank you for granting us your presence. You're a very, very busy person. I know, as the homie.
Yeah, so. That's true. But also, of course I was going to be here, so...
Listeners, it depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from the BNT audience, like you've definitely heard us on podcasts. We've done a lot together. This is not our first go round for sure. We've done things like BNC Presents Tolkien Black Girls, where we talked about Lord of the Rings because we are big Lord of the Rings fans. Not this audience, but just noting. We also did one that was Patreon exclusive for now called Chakra and Vibes, where we talked about Naruto.
Yeah, our chaotic son.
Yeah, I think this might be the first thing we've been on together, though, that we can like publicly talk about anime and things like that. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, me too.
So I guess we could start with, what are your, I kind of spoiled it a little bit with Naruto, but in general, what are your experiences with Asian pop culture?
Yeah, so, primarily Naruto. I started reading the manga when I was like 9 or 10 maybe. My brother is we're like a year and a half apart, and so he started a lot at that time, like growing up, we shared books for the most part, so we have very similar taste, and so he was reading it and I had finished my book, so I was like, well, let me see what's going on over here, and then it kind of just went from there. I realized, like, as you were saying, like, we're, I don't know, something sparked in my head. Wallflower, that
oh my goodness.
I'm like, I can't remember, what, I don't think that's the full name, but that was big for me in high school. What a wonderful time. There were I feel like in high school there were like mangas that I would read. I'm not remembering names though, because I feel like I just was like reading them and then moving on, and you would be online and you get like one chapter at a time or whatever. And like that's pretty much it. I have wanted to get like more into anime, but I am notoriously bad at watching television and have been for the last like 5 or something years.
That's gonna be a theme.
I know. And so I feel like a fraud. I'm like, I love the themes of anime. I want to watch more anime, but I never have time, and I never I just have it. It's just the list is growing, but has not actually, none of it's been checked off. And then I similarly asked Delia 2 years ago to make me a list of K-dramas I should watch. And I've seen 2 in that 2 years. 2 in full. So it's rough out here. And I'm on my 4th rewatch of Naruto right now. But that's partially because I'm watching it with my younger sister, who is watching it for the first time.
Yeah, we'll allow it.
Yes.
That list is languishing, but to be fair, it's almost like it's kind of a thing we have, like a push and pull. I give her K-dramas to watch. She says she'll watch them one day. She gives me books to read. I say I'll read them one day. It's the dynamic.
And I believe in us. It will happen.
That's what I'm saying. The thing is, I truly believe our intentions. I know we both intend to, but just life be the way it is sometimes.
Yeah. And it'll eventually, all the stars will align, and it'll be great.
It'll be great. I will say, you mentioned the Wallflower, and I think that is what it was called. I don't remember its Japanese name.
Yeah.
But I am so curious. We've talked about that we both liked it, but I don't know how you got into it, because it was not incredibly popular. I feel like it was pretty niche. So
I think
how did you find it?
I think it was one of my friends in high school was we kind of, I don't remember why or how it came up. But I know that she let me borrow maybe the first 2 copies or something. And yeah, I read them, and then I found that was around the same time that I realized that I didn't have to wait around to buy, we used to buy all the Naruto, we'd go to Barnes & Noble and buy them. And then I eventually realized no, this is actually much further along, and waiting on American publishing is not gonna work for me. So the internet. So yes, I went from there. But yeah, somebody introduced it to me, and then I just found it and just read it. And like,
it's a very different vibe from Naruto. Let me
yeah, it's completely different. It's like has some elements, you know. There are choices that are made.
For those who don't know, like it's I guess it is a harem manga anime, like theme, or is that reverse harem? Reverse harem, duh.
Yeah,
and it's about this girl whose name is Sunako, I think. And they know this lady. They're staying in her house, so I guess they're like landlord.
There's like
her daughter or something like that. They're trying to turn her into this nice lady because Sunako is like a goth girl, but like who also happens to look like Samara from The Ring a little bit, which was a big theme back in the day in anime. Yeah, and it sounds like on the surface, like, okay, what was so significant about it? But it was so funny. And I just really, in weird ways, related to that character.
Yeah. It was just like, I don't know, it was hilarious. And there were just like these moments where like all of a sudden she would like turn around and be like gorgeous and everybody's like, oh my God, like just, and then she like 2 seconds later would be like, no. It was like, it was almost like she was a cat in some ways too. Like the way that she would like flip and they would like, yeah. And so it's like it's like 4 or 5 dudes who have to like help her like, you know,
lady.
Yeah, and they like are also hilarious and like have this I don't know. It was a time and I was really into it for that time.
Yeah, I was really also and as well into it. I think you can see it like in the anime I'm even interested in like later. It definitely informed my taste. Like I feel like it was a pivotal, like, you know, you have these, I feel like, tentpole media that you take in as you develop, and they inform from then on like the rest of your media choices. Weirdly, I feel like the Wallflower like is one of those for me where I was like,
yeah. And I don't even know how we ended up like, I think I like found one of the books like in my, maybe I was like cleaning my at one point I was like giving away a bunch of books. I think I just found it. And I don't know why I sent it to you because like I wasn't like, I knew at the time that you had been into it.
Yeah, I don't remember how it came up either.
But maybe because we're like similar age, I think I was just like, of everyone, like of all our homies,
it's gonna be us.
Like Delia's gonna feel me right now.
And I did. I was so shook because I don't, even when you brought it up, I don't think I'd thought about it like consciously. Yeah. It's just one of those things like maybe like casually in my head I'd reference just to myself because the way Sunako like experiences, well, that's not how she puts it, but I take the way she seems to experience attraction. Like she just talks about how too beautiful everybody is and like they're too bright and like she has to shield herself from that. That's how I feel. Like I very much, when I see attractive people, it's not like lust or anything. I'm just like, whoa, okay, you're doing way too much. Please tone it down. I need you to stop. Cut
Relax.
It out. Relax. You didn't have to do all that. And I've always related to that. So in the back of my head, she comes up actually kind of a lot because when I have those feelings, I can just picture her.
Yeah.
Trying to like scramble away from the bright creatures.
Yeah, it was such a time. I think the anime, like the first season's on Hulu, but it's only dubbed. And
is it? Oh, I support voice actors. I support people who find dubbed more accessible. It's just not for me. And so,
yeah,
unfortunately, I will have to pass on that one.
I like have it on my like in my stuff or whatever, just in case one day I decide like I can do it. Like I can, I'm gonna try, but that day has not yet come.
Yeah, maybe that would be more. I don't know. Well, maybe one day. Maybe I'll just want to see some certain scenes and I'll try it out. But
yeah, there's like this other manga, this one I do not remember what it was called. It was like this dude who was like trying to help this girl. They like went to school together, like help her get a boyfriend or whatever. And then like in the process they start dating, and then it's just about their relationship or whatever. It was very cute. I swear, like I can see it in my head, but I could not tell you what it was called.
I did this the other day. I was recording with Sailor Moon Fan Club, and while we were talking, I didn't bring it up because I was like, there was a magical girl anime that I watched, even though I didn't like those types of anime at the time because I wasn't hair flip like other girls. But one snuck in and I really liked it. And it had a black character who was super problematic, honestly. But it was like a black character in an anime who was a girl, so I was still all about it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember. But after I recorded that episode, I was scrolling, trying to find, just going through lists. And then the name just came to me out of nowhere, and I found it, which was exciting. And it looks just as problematic as I remember, so that's lovely.
Yeah, I'm like, I haven't thought too deeply about it. I'm sure if I tried to like look, like something similar would probably happen, but it's been so long that it's like, it occasionally pops in my head like, oh yeah, I did read that, but
yeah, the memory of childhood. The further it gets, the more I'm like, there's whole books I've read that I don't even know about.
I couldn't even
Never
tell
thought
you.
there'd be a time. That's so wild to
Yeah.
me. We've talked about, I know, that you kind of had a different experience of like taking in media growing up than I think maybe a lot of audience members. I don't know. Definitely than in our friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do wonder how that influenced how you experience fan spaces, and how did you experience fan spaces around the media that we're talking about?
I mean, I was just very insular, like very on my own was about it. Like, didn't really think about, like, for one, I didn't watch a lot of anime, and that wasn't like, part of it was because like we didn't watch TV during the week. Like, we really could only watch it on the weekends. So a lot of it I was reading. And then on top of that, like, I wasn't on the internet like that. And so most of it was just me, or like I mentioned, my brother. Like, if it was when it was Naruto, it was like I was talking to my brother and then our two god brothers. And it was like the four of us. And occasionally we'd be like, oh, yo, did you like read up to this or whatever? And like, I also am somebody who's very like, I'm impatient. So like I had tried to, or like had watched Naruto a few times at that time, but because it wasn't like caught up to the manga, I was like, okay, well, we'll come back to this later. I'm just gonna watch the anime. Like, I don't have the time to be sitting up reading all them chapters and stuff. But like, yeah, a lot of it was just like, I'm reading it on my own. Like, a friend might recommend something to me, and then I go off on my own, or like occasionally talking. But it was very like, and it's also probably why I didn't get in like hell like way deeper. It's like not like I had internet homies or other friends who I was talking to about it. So it was like, I think I watched Pokemon when I was like 6, watched it for like was obsessed with it for like a year or two. Like, my parents, they remember all types of Pokemon that I don't remember because I like fell off of it so quick. Like, so, but they were, grown, so they're like, oh, that era or whatever. But like, yeah, so it was just like, it was very like just me by myself chilling. Like,
if you could go back in time, is there a fandom space you would have liked to engage with more, or were you even aware of them? I guess maybe that's the first question.
Yeah, I don't know that I was even, I mean, I guess I was like, I knew about Dragon Ball Z. Because, like, Toonami was still a thing. It's not like I completely missed that.
Right.
I think if I knew more folks who were into it, I probably would have gotten into Dragon Ball Z. I maybe would have stayed in Pokemon. I maybe would have, like, started One Piece or Bleach back when they were, younger. Whereas, like, I was talking to...
less prolific.
I was talking to my sister because we've been just kind of talking about, I'm like, maybe she'll get me to actually watch more anime because she's super into it and wants to do more. And she was like, I guess somebody had mentioned One Piece to her, and I was like, yeah, but that's like more than One Piece. And she was like... She was like, yeah, I don't think we could do that one. I was like, we've already done Naruto, and that's like 1,000 episodes. So I don't know if we want to do that again right off the bat. But yeah, so I think that I probably just would have, like, I was aware of those things, but I just didn't get all the way in. And so maybe I would have.
What are because we're talking about Pokemon fell off. You might have gotten into these other things. What would you consider your current active fandoms or things you're into? Naruto.
Well, yeah, Naruto, especially because I'm like watching it now. Lord of the Rings. Avatar, which I guess counts.
We should talk about that. That definitely counts.
I guess that counts. Also, okay, before we get into Avatar, the Boondocks.
Oh, so true, so true.
Because, growing up, my dad had I think I actually still have a few of the comic books, and whichever ones I don't have, he probably does. Like, he was reading them, and so, you just find things. He allowed me to read them, so I read them. Like, he wasn't like, this is inappropriate. I think by the time I got to them, it was fine. And then the show came out when I was in high school, so we would watch it together, and like, there's one fight scene that is like, word for word, bar for bar, Orochimaru, when he's fighting Sasuke, like the first time, when they're in the Forest of Death. There's like, they've done, like, I've seen like videos where they put them side by side, and like the choreography is the same.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's tight to watch. It's like, oh, okay. There's this kickball episode of the Boondocks that's like straight up anime. It's, I mean, like the animation obviously is, but like but just the way that they draw it and style it, like, it's super, and I haven't seen that it's been a minute since I've watched the Boondocks, but yeah, I was super into that, like, as a kid through like high school. And then Avatar.
Avatar is such a big one. That's absolutely a current fandom for me.
Yeah.
Past fandom, current fandom. The thing is, when it was airing, like, I liked it, but it wasn't as encompassing, I wouldn't say.
No. But I also think it's the way that it came out. Like, it was, you know, it was on Nickelodeon, and, like, I don't even remember how shows came out at the time. We were just getting, like, DVR as a thing. And, like, if you missed an episode, you missed it. I would watch it with my siblings and stuff, and, like, we were into it, but it definitely wasn't, like, I saw it from beginning to end, but I knew I had missed some stuff in the middle. And, like,
oh, for sure.
And was kind of, you know, at that point you have to be okay with it. It's not, now you can be upset about that, but, like, back then it is what it is. And so
people really don't remember. You really had to just roll with the punches.
Yeah. You just had to catch, you would catch a marathon, a random, Saturday morning, or, you know, they'd play like 3 episodes in a row, but none of them were in order. And you're just like, okay, guess that's what we're watching for now. And then you're also going back and forth between, because commercials happen, so now you're like, okay, I'm gonna split between watching that and, like, something on Disney Channel.
It's so interesting to me, though, because, like, I also definitely saw them out of order. I specifically remember seeing the scene in the Crystal Caverns, and I'm like, oh, okay, so Zuko and Katara are gonna get together. This makes sense to me. This tracks. Okay. And then I missed some episodes, and then, like, that apparently had not played out, and it was looking very clear that she was going, like, towards Aang, and I was like, wait, what? I'm sorry, huh? And I had to, I specifically set out, I'm like, the next marathon, I'm going to be out here because I need this.
Like, I need to know what's happening
because
here.
It's not making sense. It's not adding up. This can't be correct. It was correct.
It was,
unfortunately.
Hate that for us.
I hate
it and I don't, because if it had happened, then we wouldn't have the breadth of fanfiction that we do have.
That is so true.
There's, you know, silver linings. But yeah, I definitely, like, when I watched it the first time, I didn't think so much about shipping. Like, I think they made it pretty obvious that, like, they wanted Aang and Katara to get together. And at the time, I was not, like, I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, I didn't think too deeply about it. I was like, we're in here, whatever. But then I watched it, I don't know, at some point it got on streaming, and, like, maybe in the last, like, 5 or 6 years or so. And so I was like, oh, like, okay, I'm gonna finally watch it from beginning to end. Cause, like, you know, I saw the finale. Everybody saw the finale, but, like, I didn't, I was like, I know there are parts that I am missing, or, like, it's been a minute, I don't remember. And from jump, I was just like, oh, Zuko and Katara definitely go together. And so I was just watching it and, like, knowing how it ends, but it was just, like, being able to watch it in order. You see the arc, and I was just like, yo, this is mad obvious. Like, like, how did this
not
happen?
Even subtle.
Like, it's not subtle at all. And so and I was, like, you know, watching it as an adult, but still just being like, oh, that's crazy, because I just didn't pick up on it as a kid. I just wasn't paying attention like that. Yeah, I mean, that's also, like, why I haven't seen Korra, is I, like, aged out at the time. Like, obviously now it's, like, streaming. It's different in terms of, like, you can watch what you want. Like, at some point I will watch Korra, but, like, at the time that it came out, like, I'm, like, moving into college, like, my siblings are watching it, so I'm, like, peeking in and I'm seeing that they're watching it, but I'm not, like, paying attention. And so, yeah, there's that too. Like, I ended up missing that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, because I never was really sure, why didn't I watch Korra? I just knew that I didn't, but you're right. It was right at that, like, again, it was different back then. You just aged out of things. Like, there are people who would still go back to Nickelodeon, but once you aged out, like, I'm not sitting through Nickelodeon programming or Disney Channel.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not watching Nickelodeon. I'm not watching Disney Channel. You are not going to catch me watching Wizards of Waverly Place.
Even if I would have wanted to watch that specific show.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, I had younger siblings, so they were watching it. So it's not like I wasn't aware of it and the fact that it existed, but if they're sitting down watching it, I'm not like, ooh, like, scoot over. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go read, or I'm going to go do whatever it was I was doing.
I think it's really interesting that this was, like, an experience that you and your siblings shared, not just with Avatar, but in general, being into this type of media. And I just find it so fascinating. That's why I made a podcast about why, like, what is it? I really can't figure it out. Why do these stories that are not written with us in mind, or, I mean, well, in the Boondocks, yes, we were in mind, but in general, like, Asian pop culture, and I guess in the case of Avatar, Asian inspired pop culture, really, because that was 2 white men.
Yeah, it was.
Like, why does it resonate? What is it about these stories, like, that resonates with us so much or intrigues us so much? And I've talked to quite a few people thus far in preparation for this podcast, because, spoiler alert, we're recording before this comes out, but I don't have an answer. So, like, what do you think it is for you personally? And if you want to speak to your siblings as well, and, like, how it was in your household, feel free.
I don't know. I feel like part of it was on a broader level. Like, we're all, like, into fantasy and like sci-fi and that kind of thing, and like action stuff. Like our dad was into it, so he got us into like those genres. And so, you know, Toonami's coming on. I'm not like I'm gonna see what's going on. You know what I mean? I'm gonna check it out. I'm like interested. And so I think on the surface it's just like, you know, there's fighting. That's cool. I'm gonna watch it. But also I think like as you get in, it's like these you know, talking about Naruto specifically, like these bonds and like communities and like all this stuff. Like when I was in high school, my brother and I, it mostly ended up being me, but like we wrote this like very obviously Naruto inspired like story. I don't think we finished it, but there was black people and they were ninjas and they were like doing so, you know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know. Something about it was just fun, and the stories are so well plotted out. Also, like they're long. I mean, obviously not all anime is long, but Naruto is long as hell. And so it's one of those things where like other books we're reading, other shows, like eventually they're done. But I read Naruto from when I was like, I said like 9 or 10. The final chapter didn't come out until my senior year of college. And I literally read it, not to, you know, out myself, but like in class. I was just like, I was feeling a lot of feelings. And I was like, I have to read it now. It just dropped. Oh my God. So like, that's a long time to like be into a thing and to like, you know, like connect with those characters and, you know, all of that. So I think it's that too, is just giving folks time to be in that world and to like be into it. I don't know if I could say like specifically. I just think like with me and my brother, we just were into the same things. And then my sister was like, you know, a few years younger than him. And so she would just kind of follow us. She was like, oh, you guys talking about this? I want to know. Like, I want to be in this conversation. And we're like, hey, did you even read it? And she's like, yes. And we're like, you're 5. You didn't. Like, go away. Like, so it's just like,
I also wonder if it's something, because you had said earlier how you loved themes, like anime in general, but I wonder if, I think there's something to be said, you know, now we're also with the Hallyu, which is, you know, the Korean wave. We're seeing a lot more Korean media take over here, and in general, seeing more representation across the board, not just of Asian stories in America, but, you know, in general. I do wonder if because of the cultural differences, like in other countries, they're able to cover themes and stories that American media, big American media, like the bigwigs, just don't want to even explore because it's not going to make money. And so we go look elsewhere to find our people and see ourselves.
Absolutely. They make the same thing they're like on a 20-year cycle, and they're just like, you're going to keep making the same shit, the same like reboot of this and like the same buddy cop formula and whatever. And like those things work, sure, but like it's not exciting at a certain point. Like we all know what it's going to be. We've seen it 1,000 times. Like, cool. But getting to like, I guess, experience and like look at other forms of like, also just like story structure and like the themes, yes, but also like, you know, they're created in different ways and just like different perspectives. And to be able to get into that at a younger age is like tight, because then you're like, cool, what else can I do? Or like it just changes your perspective a bit. Yeah, sometimes you do just have to look elsewhere because
they ain't doing it here.
They're not doing what needs to be done all the time. Sometimes they are, but
yeah, they get some hits in.
They get in there sometimes, but other times
every now and again,
bro, I've seen this before.
Yeah, the formulas weren't enough. Now it's just reboot culture all the time. And we're just going to reboot things. The cycle's going to get smaller and smaller. You're going to have to always specify which version of the movie is your favorite, because there will be 3 of each, and it's going to be too much. You got me thinking about, because you were talking about how we get to learn from these like more complex themes at a younger age through some of this Asian media and pop culture, speaking of anime specifically. But I think of all the like young Black boys specifically, stay with me, who are into anime. And it's not something I thought about because I wasn't raised or socialized as a Black boy. So I don't know what that's like. But I think of how we talk about in our culture that Black men specifically need better outlets for their emotions. We're not giving that to them a lot because of like the societal structures and gender norms we put onto people, all of us. And I hadn't thought about it, but getting into anime, like anime plays with the idea of masculinity so much. Like, yes, there's very masculine characters, but they're experiencing bonds and emotions and like deep friendships and learning to care for people. And I mean,
it might be through fighting, but it's still like the love is there.
The love is there. With each punch, I love you more. You know, like You might lose an arm,
but it's okay.
Your blood's gonna hold hands about it.
Yep.
So, like, it's not, it's a bit violent sometimes, but still it's like delving into that emotionality that I think is super invaluable. And I would like to talk to someone and unpack that more now that I'm thinking about it. So,
yeah.
Listeners, if you know someone.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I grew up in a community where like I have a lot of friends that I've known since I was born, essentially. Of that group of people, the people who I watched this and talked about this stuff with were all Black boys. Like, it wasn't like none of my other friends were like, oh, you're watching Naruto? What's up? I was like, they were just like, oh, cool. I love that for you.
Yeah, it really speaks to me to a need to me that like we're not verbally expressing, but maybe that's also why we keep coming to this media. There's a need not being met, maybe even developmentally, because we're coming to this stuff young and we're finding it elsewhere in cultures that aren't afraid to talk about at least these things. No culture's perfect, I assure, because homophobia be rampant in other places. So like, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect over there.
Very
but
much so.
Speaking of learning new themes at a younger age, I am curious. If y'all didn't know, I said it up top, but let me reiterate that Bayana is a writer.
Oh, that is true.
That is so true. Very, very true. Can't wait to read her books on shelves one day. Until then, I'm curious how these fandoms have inspired your real life works, which you kind of touched on it. You did write some stuff with your brother, but
oh my gosh,
in your more recent works that I'm privy to know about, but others are not.
Yeah, I, first of all, love siblings. I have 5 of them. And so grew up with just 2, and like the 3 of us are around the same age now. We're very close and all of that. But we also have all the things that come with being siblings. So some of that stuff they're annoying. They need to stay out of my closet, So that being said, Sasuke on his own, I feel like everybody needs to relax. He's not that cool. They need chill. Sasuke and Itachi.
You have the floor. Go ahead.
My heart, what is it that Michael Scott said in The Office? Like, my heart goes with the eagle's nest. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I have like so many feelings about these 2 brothers, and sometimes it will just appear in my brain. I'll be minding my business, and then I'm like, wow, but the Uchiha brothers, and like they went through so much. So like their like relationship really like has inspired me. For what's funny is that I had an idea and I was like, oh, I'm gonna like throw that in there, and then I had a different idea and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just pull. Who knows? Maybe I'll do it twice. Who's gonna stop me?
Not I.
Right. So I think like that relationship in general, and just like the ways that like relationships can be different things to different people, and also like can be manipulated into one thing and then you find out it's another thing. Like, it's just so many different things. There's so many different like themes and feelings within that. So I would say them primarily definitely inspires me because I like pain, and
the character or in general?
Both. Both. I feel like that's the one that like is in my head the most like recently. I'm sure there are going to be other things that pop up. Like, there's no way it's not. But that's definitely been on my mind most recently. So look out for that.
Recently / always. Love / hate that for me. Great. I love angst also. Both Bayana and I love angst. I don't like it when she perpetrates it unto me, though. It's
honestly the best thing about writing is when you are writing something that's like very heart-wrenching and you're just like, ooh, about to get him with this one. Like, honestly, like I know that some people like really feel like, not that I don't feel deeply, but like they feel deeply and they like cry when they write certain passages, and they're like, I feel so bad for doing this to my readers. And I'm literally over here, the like purple devil emoji, like that's me when I write those things. So you can yell at me, it's fine. I will just continue to laugh.
Do you think when they were writing Naruto, they cried about it, or they were like, LOL, that sucks for them?
They were like, got him.
Yeah, and they did. They really, really did.
Yeah.
Truly. I think it's really interesting this, because I think it's a lot of our generation, us being millennials, who came up, like, we're the first ones who came up watching anime, because, like, Toonami was there. Like, we're that generation. And I think it's really interesting seeing people become producers, directors, novelists, creators in their own right, like, successful as adults, and seeing how these themes are starting to like weave their way into their stories. And I don't know, like maybe a general audience wouldn't be able to tell, but you can tell when you're reading a book, like this person likes anime. I peeped it.
I see it. Yeah, I mean, I know that like Tracey Deonn has talked about that, author of Legendborn. I haven't seen The Last Creed, but I know Michael B. Jordan has like talked about his like anime like inspirations and stuff. And like, yeah, shoot, Megan Thee Stallion, like all of her anime photo shoots and like references in her raps, like I love it. It's a great time.
Yeah, such a great time to be a Black kid nerd. Yeah. Blurred, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you call yourself. It's a great time. We're having a great time out here. As a writer, I thought it'd be fun to ask you, if you could be brought on to co-write an anime, what kind of story would you tell?
Whew.
I said co-wrote because we do respect, you know, people from the culture. So it would have to be a co-writing situation.
Very much so. I would want like to have more like Black characters. I don't think I'm definitely not caught up with Boruto, but I am semi watching it. Cho is the best, and I just like love her, and you know, want all good things for her. So like that'd be nice. But also, I don't know, something like with magic and like fantasy. I like shonen, so I would want it to, you know, I want the pain and like the.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, will it hurt? It definitely should hurt. Yeah, swords, dragons, I don't know. It'd be great.
Ooh, dragons.
Dragons would be tight.
Please. Black girl dragon riders in an anime.
Yep.
That's the one I
want. Sign me up.
I really doubt there are anime creators listening, but if there are, I welcome you to contact Bayana. She got a website. She got contact information.
I do.
I'd watch the heck out of that. I agree. I wish I could see more Black people in anime, also just in Asian pop culture in general. I think there is a line, like, I'm not saying, you know, there is cultural imperialism. So, like, I want it to be true to the cultures that are creating the works. Yeah. However, Black people live in those countries too. Like, let's not pretend.
Yeah.
We're everywhere. So I would like to see it, very much so. It's something I've long desired. I recently recorded with Mary Clay of That's What I'm Talking About, and I talked a lot about Galadriel. So Galadriel quotes are top of
your
mind. So I apologize. That's not the brand right now, but I can't help it. I'm a Galadriel stan.
Yeah.
We did talk about what maybe would you have been into in the past, and I know you don't have like a lot of time, but if you did have time, what Asian pop culture or fandom spaces are you intrigued by right now?
Well, I would catch up on that list that you sent me first and foremost.
Good answer.
I do want to watch like Hunter x Hunter or like My Hero Academia, like the two I feel like I hear about I think my brother watches them, which is probably why I hear about them most. Like, I feel like if I can get the time, like one of those would probably be the ones that I start with, my sister. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to recommendations. Like, I'm not, you know, you can send them to me with the grain of salt that like it might take me 5 to 7 business years to start the first one, but I got you.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also saw like Spy Family looks cool. Like there's just like I've been seeing them in my periphery.
I know it's pretty short. I also have, to be clear, even though I host this podcast, I have a watch list both of movies, animes, K-dramas. I now have J-dramas that have been recommended to me. Like the list is long.
It
so
just
like
keeps
I
growing.
very much relate. It only grows.
Yeah.
It never shrinks. Not because you don't watch things off of them, but there's more to consume than there is that is consumed. Mm-hmm. That is
It's me looking at my to read list, my TBR. I just be like, bro, can y'all just pause on releasing books? Like don't do that. But sometimes I'm like, can I pause? And like,
yeah, there's still books also that I'm really intrigued by. Like, what is their name? The author. They got really big on YouTube. Also, I think they're on TikTok. Xiran.
Zhao? Yeah. Iron Widow.
Yes, Iron Widow.
That's really
that
good.
Has been
when
it wasn't out yet. I was like, oh, I'm gonna read the heck out of this book.
Yeah.
And the sequel is out. I'm pretty sure, and I still have not read it.
Well, no, it's not out yet. Sequel doesn't come out.
Okay.
It got
so pushed back.
Year.
That's right. But it's still on my TBR. So I will be reading stuff. I will maybe even review them for this podcast. Who's to say? But like,
shoot, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I got Rex. Like you said that, and I'm like, oh yeah, like books.
Bayana is also a prolific reader. She won't own to it because in our friend group we've got lots of readers.
Yeah, I was gonna say I am average. Well, I mean, what am I like? I'm like high, but like
you're the upper end of average. But in our friend group, you're very mid.
Yeah, I'm like I'm actually not even doing that much. I got to tell people in my family, they be like, but you read 1,000 books. I'm like, relax.
No.
I was like, I know
relax.
people who actually read 1,000 books, so
yeah, it's really wild in our friend group. But she does read a lot. So do you have book recs in this vein? Like,
so I would say Iron Widow. It's super tight. The main character is like unhinged in like a really great way.
my favorite.
Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I've read it's a duology. I've read the first one and haven't gotten to the second one yet, but soon. These Violent Delights Are Violent Ends.
Yes,
by Chloe Gong. That's so really good. I read the next Foul Lady Fortune. I read that.
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
It was cool. I liked it. And I know she has a sequel to that coming out and like plenty of other books.
We'll put all these in the show notes, so don't y'all fret. They will be there for you to peruse.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jade City. I am still back and forth on whether I'm going to sue our friend Portia for emotional distress. But that trilogy, the Greenbone Saga, oh my God. It's like free. Oh my, it's amazing and devastating. And I read it last summer and I was at Disneyland with my family. And so it was like before we were like in the hotel about to go. And like I was on the last book. Like this thing happened. It was so crazy. Like I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And then I had to like go to Disneyland. Like I'm at Disneyland thinking about these characters and like crazy. Also has an unhinged main character who I love, but really like he needs
help.
Yes. And like take the weapons away from him. He just he does not need to be in charge, but he's great. Okay, yeah, but I feel like those are good. So the Jade City Greenbone Saga is adult. We said These Violent Delights, that's YA. Oh, Daughter of the Moon Goddess is adult, and then Iron Widow is YA.
Yeah, so if you're a Black nerd like we are, but maybe you fell off of reading, maybe you're just like, I want to dive deeper into these types of stories or these cultures. Books. They're so good. The representation, honestly, the representation in publishing is still abysmal, but it's getting better all the time. And the stories that are out are so good. I say that as someone who's a bad reader, but what I have read, so good. Please, please, please pick up some books. I guess my last question is, what do you think can be gained through Black and Asian pop cultural exchange? Whether that be through coalition or the type of media we put out. Mm-hmm. No wrong answers.
I mean, I think both. Like, I think that we consume a lot of, like, Asian media at this point or have grown up consuming it. I think that our culture is also worldwide and people are seeing it. And
why did my brain go, Mr. Worldwide?
I know. I didn't mean to say it like that, but yeah. And folks are consuming that. Some are appropriating that. Some are, and taking inspiration from that. And so I do think that there is something to be, like, there's already that exchange happening. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there is definitely something to be gained by, like, those conversations and, like, also a more intentional exchange, be that through, like, recommendations, culture building, like, activism. Like, there are a lot of different ways that we could use that media to both strengthen our relationships across cultures, but then also, like, strengthen our current standing in the world, I guess, if that's the best way to say it. But
broaden our worldview.
Yeah, broaden our worldview, but then also just, like, solidarity. Like, there's just a lot of, in that exchange, there's also a lot of, like, anti-Black sentiments, anti-Asian sentiments in places where it doesn't really make sense to do that. Like, So even as we're, like, learning these new things and, like, expanding our worldviews away from, like, the very narrow, like, Eurocentric white supremacist worldview, like, we also then fall into some of those things at the same time. And so
we sure do,
on both trying sides. Not to do that and having more honest and, like, open conversations about that. I think, like, doing that intentionally, I think would be really dope.
That's what we aim to do here. Culture by culture. But I agree. That's what I want most of all. I get always so almost personally hurt when I see, like, especially online, it happens a lot online, where on either side, like, you see anti-Black or anti-Asian sentiment. I'm like, but it doesn't have to be this way, because my true belief is when we're doing that, we're just letting white supremacy win, because that's ultimately what's at play. Right. Us propping up white supremacy. And why are we doing that? Right. Cut it out.
And, like, at this point, obviously now there are, like, genuine hurts and, like, issues that need to be worked out, but we can do that without then resorting to the same old tactics,
because people do. So if you're listening, cut it out. There's so much potential for a better world. It's really so simple. It's not, but like the start is simple. The first step is actually pretty simple. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Then we can work at the rest. Well, thanks for coming, Bayana. Tell the good folks where they can find you.
Yeah, so I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yana Wrote It, and I host a podcast called Wizard Team, which is a Black fantasy podcast where we highlight stories written by Black authors. So I write things, but like there's nothing that you can find, so don't worry about it
yet.
Don't worry about it for now. Eventually there will be things.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Let me know if y'all have any book recommendations. Again, it will be 5 to 7 business years before I get to them. But share your book recs, your favorite Asian authors. We would love to know. Or if you've read any of the books that Bayana mentioned, what did you think of them? Would love to know. You can let us know at Culture X Podcast on Twitter or Instagram. You can also find us on Patreon. Oh my goodness, we have a Patreon. Yeah, we do. Patreon.com/Culture X Podcast. There's a lot of cute stuff over there. You can just see some of the behind the scenes, see what I'm thinking, where are we going, who's coming on the show. Or maybe if you pick a higher tier, you might be able to help me out and participate in the podcast a little bit. So hopefully we'll see y'all over there. But until then, keep it chill and keep it nerdy.